Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Big Bala Brands podcast. Thank you guys, as always, so much for being here from wherever you are in the world. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. It's good to be here again for another week. This week, I was thinking about something that I thought about before because I've been living where I am in this city 10 years now and really reflecting a lot on that. And I didn't realize this at the time, but now I'm looking back and I realize that my 20s weren't about figuring life out. They're really about, it's really about how we're being shaped by it. And what do I mean by that? So I want to give you guys a list of 10 things, 10 lessons I've taken back from 20s till now. Number one, you think you have a plan, life doesn't care about that plan. We all have plans that are more guides, things that we want to accomplish, achieve, where we want to be at in X amount of time. And that's great because it's like the roadmap. But you guys also realize things change. We change, life changes, the world changes. The plan you had may change because something in it gets thrown off track, something changes there, and it means, oh my God, okay, now what? We had this perfect idea for life, and now it's being shaped and changed by forces outside of our control. So it's okay to have plans, I'm not saying don't. But always realize that you have to be ready to pivot. And the best way I can even describe that is what happened when COVID came into life. We had to pivot. So much of life pivoted, shifted, changed, grew faster. Some things went away. That's like we had a plan, but life threw a curveball and we had to change our plan. Life is about navigation, not just execution. Lesson number 2, independence feels exciting until it feels lonely. What do I mean by that? I remember when I got my first, let me rephrase that. I remember when I first started college, my last 2 years, and I had a roommate. Guy I never talked to, never met in my life, and it was like my first place of living outside of home. And after that, I ended up upgrading to my first 1 bedroom, which means it was like first time for me doing that. How do I do that? How do I navigate it? Really being independent. And then after that, I ended up getting a 2 bedroom. So it's like through each of these places I've lived at, it was like a new version of me coming with that as well. And I remember even when I was in college, I would go home on the weekends at the beginning, and then on Sundays I would leave home. And it was lonely because I'm like, I want to stay here, but I got to go to school. I got to go to this city that's always been next door to us, but it feels like I'm so far away. That uncomfortable feeling that it's a freedom that comes with a lot of emotional weight is the best way I can put it. And I'm sure so many people in life go through this. Some of you may be excited for that moment, right? You're getting out into the world. You're going to explore, experience, grow into yourself. But at times, I understand that can feel very heavy. And maybe you're in that place now. I've been there many times where, okay, every new place I step into is a new version of me, new growth, new people, new surroundings, new life. Number 3, you will feel behind even when you're not. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is whether it's career, money, relationship, identity, Everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's timeline is completely different. You are not in competition with anybody else. And I would say your only competition is you from yesterday. But don't ever try to compare yourself, because then, you're not, then you're told that, why don't I have this? I need to work harder here. I need to do this more. I'm not that person. So everyone's journeys in life, everyone's stories in life, where everyone came from is different. And so it gives us a different way of walking through life for ourselves. Which I know sometimes you're thinking, oh my God, someone 10 years younger than me has a great relationship already, or they already have that awesome business, or maybe someone my age has got just so much more success than I do right now. Or maybe even someone 5 years from now, someone 5 years older than you right now is where you are. And you're like, am I gonna be there at that time too? Am I gonna not have much when I get to that age? Like, just don't do it to yourself. Don't compare yourself to everyone else. I've been guilty of that. I've done that many times. But I'm like, you know what? No one walks my shoes, and I don't walk anyone else's shoes. You know? It's different for everybody. So yeah, everyone's timeline is different. Just remember that. Everyone's timeline is different. Your timeline is different from your friends, from your family. It's just different. And be okay with that. Number 4, you won't understand money early on. And that's normal. I didn't either. When I was in my 20s, I had read a couple books about other people and their journeys with money, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it yet. I had learned about investing in a very simple way with one company. I hadn't really saved. I had some money coming in, and that made me feel like I was a baller. Oh, I have a royalty check coming in. But it didn't hit me until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. It wasn't until I started living in the place I live in now that I really started to focus more on it. Because in your 20s too, most of the time, unless you have the mentor or people in your family who are going to teach you it, your 20s are you discovering life for yourself. Because the first 25 years of your life, you have expectations by society and family and the world. And so you go through college, you're doing that for the first time, a new environment, maybe your hometown, maybe out of state. Maybe you're working part-time, getting your own place, have roommates. You're going through all this stuff in life. And okay, maybe you are fortunate in the sense of, I got money coming in now, I gotta work with it accordingly. Or maybe that hasn't hit you yet either. Again, in my 20s, I was not as focused. I was not as aware. I was not as so connected to it. I did not create that new relationship with it that I have now. I didn't do a lot of that in my 20s. And so now I reflect on it, I'm like, okay, the past 10 years of my life that I've gone through all this is why I have the knowledge and the skill, and I do it so automatically in my life. That's why I created all this. That's why I have a YouTube channel, podcast, why I'm working on my book now, because I want to take all that is in my head in the past 10 years of my life, 5 years, and give it to you, give it to the world. Because I've been through it. I made mistakes. I don't regret any of it. Everything happened the way it was supposed to, plain and simple. Just it happened the way it was meant to. So I was not financially aware at the time, not as much as I am now. So the lesson here is awareness does often come later, and it's not always in your 20s. Or maybe some of you are very fortunate, and I'm glad you are, if this is the case, that you're in your 20s or maybe in your teens and you're being taught financial literacy. Because Also, at the time, whether, I'm sure there's always been a lot of financial literacy to an extent, but in my 20s, I wasn't searching for it. I really wasn't. I read a couple books, but I wasn't adamantly searching for it. Now it's everywhere, right? It's like you can't, if you go looking for it, you won't not find it. And there's so many people out there with books like Dave Ramsey. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, and people talk about finances in so many different ways now. So lesson number 5. Your environment shapes your identity. Again, I was already touching on this, but we'll reemphasize more. Where you live changes who you become. And again, that happened to me when I was like, okay, growing up in the country, then coming out to the city. And New Orleans is not like a huge city, still city life. And then having my first roommate, which was like, what? I never had that before. My tiny little room, sharing space, and then my first 1-bedroom. That was a whole new change for me. Never really grew up having my own room. So having my own 1-bedroom was like, wow, this is mine, but I gotta work for it. I gotta maintain it. I gotta pay rent and everything. And then getting a 2-bedroom. All these locations have shaped me in different ways. From college to, you could say, being in my mid-30s now. So your environment shapes your identity. Lesson number 6. Insecurity is part of your 20s. This one is actually really, I think, super cool, because I was talking to a friend of mine many years ago, and she had said something similar. She said, yeah, your 20s are when you discover your insecurities, you live through them, and then your 30s are when you really start to grow out of them a lot more. And I can definitely attest to that. Look, in my 20s, I could not shake my weight, meaning I had the hardest time putting on weight and gaining weight and muscle. And there was a moment where I had dislocated my knee. It was very painful. I did it twice. And the doctor said, you need to put on some muscle here. And for many years, I struggled with this insecurity because I was so skinny. I felt so not manly and just small and tiny. And it affected me in so many ways. And bless my mom's heart, she did everything she could to try to help me, to find out what's the solution, how do we help you gain weight. I was like lactose intolerant back then. I'm a vegetarian, so we don't eat the normal stuff that everyone else does for protein, like all these things. And so it really wasn't until my 30s where that changed, because it wasn't until after college where I started working out more seriously. And the majority of the reason why was too is because I discovered what anxiety was. I was like, oh, this is what anxiety feels like after college. And so from then, I started going to the gym, and it became a habitual thing for me. And my body started to change. One day I get on the scale many years later. I didn't do it every week. Many years after starting my gym career, I was like, got on my scale, it says 180 pounds. I'm like, oh my God, 180 pounds? When did that happen? My confidence began to change. My social identity began to change. So the lesson here is like, your 20s expose your internal gaps, and your 30s will begin to fix them a lot more. So like when people say, oh my God, I'm turning 30, I'm so old. Are you kidding me? 30s have been phenomenal so far. Not saying that everything's perfect, but I'm glad I know what I know now. And I wish I would have known in my 20s, but everyone says that. So no, I think your 30s are better, and then going into your 40s are gonna be even more exciting, because it's a different phase in life. And think about it, like the things that we wished for way back then are the things that we are living now, and the things we are wishing for now, 5, 10 years from now, a year from now, you're gonna be living. Number 7, you don't find yourself, you build yourself. Again, this just goes back to everything I was saying. As you go through life in all these different phases, you begin to build who you are. I basically built who I am when I got to this 2-bedroom apartment, And a lot of who I am has been built here. I came here and I was like, I want to keep the personal growth journey going. I was not in school anymore. Went to my first Tony Robbins event and just kept growing here. And again, now I have a podcast. This is the 47th episode. I'm working on a book right now. I have a network spread across many states. My podcast has been listened to in many different countries. I've been building myself. So the lesson here quickly is really identity is created through action. Number 8, growth doesn't happen when you expect it. It really doesn't. You don't start personal development until later often. That's just the case. Unless you have people who are encouraging you, your circle is there at a young age for you and you're like encouraged to do it. Growth has its own timeline. Like right now, I'm in a growing phase right now where once I get to that point, I'm gonna look back and be like, oh man, that whole time was me growing. And I'm gonna get to that destination and then I'm gonna keep growing again. So timing often matters more than intention because we live in a world where we often want things so fast, right? We want that instant gratification, that quick dopamine hit. You want that connection to happen. You want the job to say yes right away. You want that date to happen tomorrow, but things don't happen like that. It happens on its own timing. But you can't also sit around waiting for that moment to happen. Have you ever noticed that when you sit around a long time, time goes very slow maybe, or not much is happening? The minute you go out the door and you start driving somewhere or you go for a walk, it's like boom, right? Action, you gotta take action. Lesson number 9, people will fade and that's not failure. People will fade and that's not failure. I know everyone talks about this and I have learned this through time because 10 years almost later, after college, I look at college life and I'm thinking, wow, a lot of friends I had, or let's say even people I knew, have just gone in different directions in life. Many have gotten married, some have moved away, other people are just doing their own thing. And again, it's not like gone forever. It's just that again, like I was saying earlier, everyone has their own path. Everyone's paths in life are different. And so things will fade, but then others will come into the picture, or in your circle might shrink a little bit, and that's not the worst thing in the world. Everyone's got to go find their path in life. Everyone gets out of their cage or finds their thing somewhere else, their cage somewhere else. Evolution often requires separation. And it's not that you're never going to stay in touch with people, but again, everyone does life their own way, and even if someone is a block down the road, you're not going to see them all the time. They have life going on too, and their life is different than yours. Number 10, your 30s are when things actually start to click. Now, this is different for everybody. I'm not going to say it might be happening for you the way it has for me, for others, but I definitely feel more now confident, clear. Relationships have shifted, new ones have arrived, some have faded. It's a different phase of life. Because again, think about it, the first 25 years you're going through the beginning of life, the beginning phase 1 or whatever. And then you get out of that, and then maybe late 20s you're discovering life for you, and then 30s is, oh wow, I'm waking up to reality, and this is adulthood, and I get responsibilities, and what do I want my life to be like right now? What's it going to be 5-10 years from now? All these things come into place. So your 20s are a preparation, they're not an arrival. But that's also, every age does that for you. It's preparing for the next phase. And it can feel scary, and understand that. But think about it. Look at everything you've done and the things you thought were scary at first and now where you are. And I say that because when I first started college, I was on my own, living with someone I didn't know. And I'm like, hold it, now look at where I am so many years later. I'm like, looking back, I'm like, I did that? So I would say look forward to your 30s, but don't try to grow so fast. Be patient with yourself. Be patient. You're doing great. So anyways, I hope these are helpful to you guys. I hope you can relate to them or If you're in a place in life right now where you're navigating a lot of it, I get it. And enjoy the ride of life. Just enjoy the ride of life. There's so much more to look forward to, even if you're going through some struggles and challenges and obstacles and setbacks and whatever everyone is going through in life. There's always something in life you can look forward to. There really is. But don't wait for it to happen. Create it for yourself. Give yourself that gift. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Always good to show up here. And remember, subscribe to my channel, follow, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.